I will echo those sentiments. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you. It's great to be with you.
Very, very exciting to talk to a real life Ghostbuster. I'll be honest. It's as a 40-year-old, there's not many things I have to cling on to. So it's always nice to tell people I was interviewing a Ghostbuster today. Although when I said to some people I was interviewing a Ghostbuster, they all, of course, as you would expect, no disrespect to you, gone, "You're talking to Bill Murray?" No one's got.
Yeah, no. Billy's he's a leader of the team, so he's truly a unique talent, and it's just a real privilege to not only work with him, just to know him, because he's unlike any human being I've ever met. So just have nothing but the greatest respect and appreciation for Bill.
Indeed. Well, my first congratulations is on Ghostbusters Afterlife, which has been a huge success given the restrictions, as we were talking before, and COVID and everything. The fact that people have gone to the theaters, particularly in America, to go and see Ghostbusters. You must be delighted with how people have responded to it so far.
Yeah, because there was always a big concern, getting to theater. Will people come out, with every time you start to relax, there's a new variant. But it's it was interesting that the budget, as my understanding, was about half of what the 2016 budget. So it made it a little bit more, what do I say, available to be able to make its money and do well. But people have turned out, and I've met families, because it really is a family movie, and who've seen it 2 or 3 times. So it's the kind of thing that people enjoy and go back again to see it. But the fact that it's not streaming was a concern, but it seems like it's doing well the way it is. I'm very happy.
Yeah, and also we're post-release now, so we can officially talk about you guys returning, because I liked the fact that for a lot of the marketing, they purposely didn't ever put you guys into it. I thought that was really good that you guys did it. But for you particularly, again, I've spoilers for anyone watching, but it's been out for a little while now, that you have a couple of extra scenes. You're the one that's in it maybe the most out of everybody. That must have been exciting for you.
Yeah, it was. Well, I think it's probably pretty well known. There were, coming into the whole Ghostbuster universe, and the first movie especially, there was some issues that I sort of had to kind of wrestle with. And Jason Reitman directing this movie, I think he just sort of gave Winston a moment, which I felt wasn't in the first 2 movies. And that meant a lot to me, just in terms of the character. One of the things that when the first movie came out, especially, I would go around to schools, and the little kids, small kids, I'd make them honorary Ghostbusters. And I talked to them, but the question they would always ask is, where does Winston go? And at first I didn't understand it, but I began to realize that there was no, Winston does he have a family? There's no information about him personally. And so the new movie, Jason sort of gave him sort of a foundation that for me personally was really important.
Yeah, it was nice to have him have those moments, because we know, we've seen, like you said about, Bill being Bill, he was the, the star, and he had all this stuff. But because from my understanding, watching the documentary, which we're also talking about, and I saw the documentary maybe 2.5 years ago, because I'm good friends with Anthony and Claire, and they showed me a very early cut, and it was like the longest version they'd put together. And I just sat there for 2.5 hours, just in awe of just the work that went into the movie, but also all these secrets that I never knew about, and about who Eddie Murphy's name, and obviously John Belushi's name, and all these other people that may have been part of it, and it changed and everything else. So for you to now get to kind of full circle with Winston must be, as you said, it must be a very touching moment now that you've been able to kind of give the character a little bit of the backstory that maybe was missing in the first 2.
Yeah, I think so. It's this movie for almost 40 years has been, a big part of my life. I've worked and done a lot of other work. So, but in terms of just people on the street, audiences, probably 80% of the people who come up to me will reference Ghostbusters. So yeah, it was important. It was nice to sort of resolve some issues within myself about it. That I'd already had put in place, and Ivan Reitman and I, we've had long discussions about it, but it was nice to see Winston have a moment.
It's also nice in Ghostbusters Afterlife that, not to give any, again, not to spoil anything, but you didn't have to be covered in anything, because in, you know, in the first one there's all the marshmallow, in the second one there's all the purple goo. In this one you get to wear a business suit, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, it was fun to it was fun for me to find out what's happened to Winston, you know, over the years, and to see the you know, the story go in that direction. So I was very, very happy. Number one, just to come back and see the guys and be a part of this, the new one, to meet the new cast who truly are amazing. But yeah, to find out what's happened to Winston over the years that's passed.
Yeah. And again, I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, but there is a very touching tribute in this to Harold, and I have to say it's so well done. When Jason kind of told you the plan of, because he's, you know, Egon's kind of on the outer skirts of the story, he kind of leads into the story as to where it goes in the new one. How delighted were you when he told you what the plan was, and then when you saw it executed? You guys must have been so proud.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know how the other guys, I'm sure they did. I can't tell you how many people have come up to me who've seen the movie, who said they're in tears, they cried. I mean, men, women, kids. I mean, Harold Ramis's character Egon was so loved. I mean, even years after, people would come up and offer me their condolences because they knew that I knew him and had worked with him. So for them to do it the way that Jason did, and it was very beautiful. I read the script, obviously, and I had an idea, but I really didn't see it until I saw the movie and saw how he executed it and the way it was done. It was very very nice, and I think the fans needed that, you know. So it was very, I think in the 2016 movie, because it was a different universe or something, they tried to acknowledge. But I think the way Jason did in Afterlife, to give Harold that send off, you know, his character, it was very special.
Yeah. And in terms of you, like retrospectively, when you look back at the first film, are you still kind of shocked as to how it was received and how it's gone on to have this life? Because I can imagine for you as an actor, it was one of the first kind of biggish kind of things that you'd done. Obviously, I know you've done stuff before then, but it seemed to catch on very quick and was one of those which people don't understand these days, but films would stay in the box office and number one for months and months, which doesn't really happen anymore. So that,
right.
Looking back at it, you must be still kind of pinching yourself as to just that it was successful, because it could have gone the other way.
It could have gone the other way, but I think I had probably no doubts that it would be successful. I mean, none. I think we were pretty confident, pretty cocky, you know, that we had something special. So when it came out number one, that didn't surprise me. When it lasted for a while, when it lasted quite a while, actually, at the top of the box office, and that was a little surprising, but I really liked the movie. I thought it was very unique and different, and so that didn't surprise me. What surprised me was a year after that, people were still singing the song. I think Ray Parker's song did a lot too. I mean, that and the film just sort of all kind of coalesced and came together. But when it went in 5 and 10 years after, that was really unusual. I've done a lot of movies, and fans have liked them, but we all move on. But Ghostbusters, 15, 20 years, now that was surprising. 25 years, I'm like, okay. And then the 30-year anniversary, and I can't remember where I was, but guys showed up. Maybe it was in Atlanta at Dragon Con, and we must have had 10 ectomobiles, must have been 100 guys in their jumpsuits. That was pretty amazing. I mean, their backpacks and their kids, and The real, to me, wonderful thing about the movie is it is a family movie. You know, it transcends generations. So you see grandparents loving the movie, laughing, having memories tied to the movie, and little kids being introduced, and they love the movie. So there aren't many movies that kind of does that, where everybody kind of gets something from it and can enjoy it. I was talking to one couple recently who it's been their Christmas movie every year since the movie came out. That's the one movie they gather around to watch. So that was a surprise to me that it has lasted and has become part of the consciousness. I mean, certainly the Ghostbusters symbol is probably one of the best known, recognizable, maybe in the world. I don't know. So and so it was very nice, and it forced me to revisit it and kind of go, really, let me go back and take a look at this movie, and the first one for me is just a perfect little film, quirky and fun and interesting. But I've grown to appreciate it over the years, and really a large part due to the fact that fans have just embraced the movie.
Yeah. Something I've always wanted to, if I ever got a chance to interview, which I'm delighted to say that I have today, to ask you was the line at the end of the film that you say, "I love this town." Was that a scripted line? Was it scripted as to how you would say it, or was that pure you that you'd said to maybe to Ivan and to Dan and Harold, if we're going to make this the end of the film, this is how I think I should do it?
Well, okay, I don't know if I've ever said this before, but coming into the movie, and after the changes were made, which was very frustrating to me, the script changed a lot. Ivan said it didn't change that much, but in my mind, it changed a lot. So, but I think the guys, Bill Murray, Dan, Harold, were very aware of me being there and not wanting me to be sort of cut out. So when we did the scene on the rooftop and Sigourney Weaver and Rick Moranis returning, coming out of the dog trance, and we're pulling the stuff off of it, coming out of it. But and everybody seemed to be having something to do. I felt a little awkward, and I think the guys felt that. And so I think it was maybe Bill. We were kind of walking away, and I think Billy was with Sigourney, and Danny was with Rick, sort of, and I was sort of there. And I think it was Bill who said, Ernie should say something. And so I don't know who came up with "I love this town," but it was just sort of, I think them sort of making sure that I was included. The guys were always very inclusive and in some ways protective. It was the studio's choices that I always had issues with. But the guys, they always, wanted to make sure that Winston was indeed a part of it, part of the team.
Yeah, I always love, even though you put your hands, I love, for some reason, I'm sure fans would say the same, when you clasp your hands together as well, that kind of makes it even better. It makes that line even better. It's just the way you perform it is just so good that it just leaves you on such a great feeling at the end of that film. I have to say, it's
thanks. That
fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, because the thought was the guys are kind of improvisationalists and comedians to some extent. And I consider myself an actor who can also, be funny if I need to. But so whatever is given, you want to make sure that you make it your own. And certainly Winston it was an interesting character for me because I think it was one of the characters that I felt more internally than I think physically. Sometimes it works the other way around. So you take, if they were kind enough to make sure that I was given a moment, you want to make sure that you deliver it. You don't want a great funny line and you do it and it's not funny. That's like the worst. So if you're going to have the train run over you in the railroad, track, then you want to make sure that you maximize the moment. And so now, all these years later, fans will come up with any number of lines that Winston had that they still quote, and that's really, I think, a tribute to the guys who, like I said, always made sure that Winston was part of the team.
Yeah. And just finally, before I let you go, because I know it's very early where you are and quite late where we are, getting on for a bit. Obviously, there's some scenes in Afterlife that suggest we may see you again. Have there been any early talks of maybe, are they waiting to see how it kind of performs and everything else before they maybe suggest maybe there's another one to be had here?
Well, I'm always the last guy who knows anything. The fans actually know more. The fans tell me about what's going on, because I don't really go online a lot, and I'm not heavy in social media, so I don't have a clue. But what I have heard, they're working on a new script, and so whatever the future is, I have not heard that I'm necessarily included. But I know that Jason and I talked about it, and I know that he was just very, very happy. Jason is kind of like, I think when you work on something like Ghostbusters, he was a kid when we were doing the other movie. Him and Violet Ramis were always sort of around, and so he kind of feels like family. I was so proud of him when he got into directing and actually, established his career. And then when he took over the Ghostbusters thing, but I've always felt very close to him whenever I've seen him. And so I think it was important for him to let me know that Winston is really an important part of the Ghostbuster universe. And so whatever that means in future films, we'll wait to be seen. But I know that that Winston is very important to him now. If that turns out to be, if there are other Ghostbusters, that Winston is there, certainly, the possibilities are very strong that Winston will be included in some way. And also I think Winston is a guy who really enjoys this weird thing that's going on around it. The other guys were they were interested, and they were, it was kind of their world, but Winston was like, I think, a bit fascinated by the whole thing. So I think a lot of the fans saw this universe through Winston's eyes.
Yeah.
So it's a good possibility to be included. I certainly would, I'd love to, but in this business, I never take anything for granted.
Yes, indeed. Ernie, it's been an absolute pleasure for me to have a chat with you today. Thank you so much for your time. Honestly, it's been wonderful to talk to you.
Well, the pleasure is mine. Thank you for taking the time. It's I'm so happy that you enjoyed this movie, and I'm just so honored to be a part of it. So take good care, and as we say, just keep on busting.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey!